You're listening to the Fan Club Podcast, where two polar opposites experience each other's fandoms for the very first time.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Fan Club Podcast. My name is Sarah,
This is Matthew.
and if my voice sounds like this, that's because I'm recovering from a cold. It sounds a lot worse than it is. I'm slightly losing my voice though, so I apologize.
Great.
But we can't delay this recording any more than we already have, so this is what I'm gonna have to sound like.
Yeah.
So
Pushed it back as far as long as we can.
So we are recording this on Sunday, and this goes up on Wednesday. So the closest we've ever pushed it.
Yeah.
So this is our Hawkeye Part 1 episode. So we will be going over the first 3 episodes of Hawkeye today, and then on Friday we'll be going over episodes 4 through 6.
Yes, and we'll be doing the same for Moon Knight.
Yep.
Just to make things easier for us, and then in
And then
beginning of December,
one
Mondays,
movie a week
yeah,
episodes.
till we get to January, which we'll have She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel to cover.
Yep. But those will be like one-off, like like a whole month.
No,
Like
it'll
it
be like
was.
maybe a week, and then a TV show, movie, TV show, or something like that.
Yeah. This show specifically with Hawkeye, because
It,
Black Widow came out right before it, it makes things a little bit confusing in terms of our timeline.
yeah,
Um,
but know that Black Widow, which we'll be covering in 3 weeks,
yeah.
will take place before this, so it'll have a lot of the answers for the second episode of Hawkeye.
And we'll get into this a little bit more when we start talking about episode 4, because that's when kind of dominoes start to fall.
Yeah.
But I have to say, having not seen Black Widow currently as of recording right now, I was a little bit lost in that regard.
Yeah, I completely forgot.
I didn't know that it really played that much of a key role until Sammy from Team Unicorn DM'd me and was like, "Oh, I didn't realize that this was a domino that was about to fall." She didn't phrase it like that, but like,
Yeah, I
um,
completely forgot. Otherwise, I would have had us do Black Widow first.
yeah, I
It's the
part
same reason why I want to wait for Miss Marvel, just because she is in Doctor Strange. So I don't want to spoil some stuff with her.
Yeah, part of me in some ways wishes that we maybe stuck to
Our normal.
our normal like release date schedule and didn't, but at the same time I kind of wanted to get all of the main MCU shows out of the way. And I liked how we did this with the month of November being TV show month.
Yeah.
Despite it being a lot of work.
Yes.
Um,
Lots and lots of.
but overall, what are your thoughts on Hawkeye? At least the first half of it.
I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say for the first half. I'll have more to say for the second, just because the second has all the trick arrows.
Yeah, I feel similarly about Hawkeye that I did about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that the first half was a little bit, I hesitate to use the word drags, um, but
But it
I
also had
wasn't
to introduce a ton of new people.
it wasn't like
It had to introduce the Tracksuit Mafia. It had to introduce Kate Bishop. It had to
I wasn't
introduce.
fully on board until probably episode 4.
Yeah, that's how you've been with a lot of the TV shows.
Yeah.
First half is, I mean, that is the same for a movie. The first half is usually boring, and then the second half is
I don't
when it
think
picks
Hawkeye
up.
is necessarily
Or
boring
I don't mean
per
boring.
se.
I mean, like think
It's
like
a lot of exposition and a lot of character
think
development.
like Thor Ragnarok. That
Yeah.
movie doesn't really pick up until the Revengers are born, like
Yeah.
halfway through.
But it's exactly how I felt with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that like once
Once the
once
action started.
John Walker killed the Flag Smasher dude, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in. Like,
You were in during the highway scene for Hawkeye is when you're like, okay, I'm in now.
yeah, that scene was insane. So anyway, the first episode is called Never Meet Your Heroes.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna try in these episodes not to go 100% scene by scene, just because we are covering 3 episodes in an episode.
Yeah.
But we're gonna try to We're gonna try to, like, cover as comprehensive as we can,
So we start off with the War of
the Battle of New York,
yeah, the Battle of New York.
but it's from Kate's perspective.
Yes. So the bit that we see is the Hawkeye scene where he's shooting all the Shatari on the roof.
And he jumps off the building and then, like,
It's the same scene
it's
as when
yeah,
he
yeah.
like shoots Loki with the arrow and Loki catches it and blows
Oh,
up. It's that scene.
it's the classic Hawkeye shot of where he
Like
jumps off the building front facing and then flips.
yeah, and then shoots up
Yeah.
to the building.
It's a
Yes.
very classic Hawkeye shot.
Yeah. So Kate Bishop is probably my favorite sidekick
I
because
loved her in
that's
this.
the thing. There hasn't been a whole lot of like sidekick characters. Because I'm not going to call Bucky a sidekick. I'm not going to call Falcon a sidekick. I'm not going to because and Spider-Man is technically a sidekick to Iron Man for Civil War.
I think once you get further into the MCU, sidekick is a hard word to
That's the
define.
thing. She's the only true sidekick character in the MCU so far. Because there really hasn't been a sidekick. Yes. Tony had Harley in Iron Man 3 for a little bit, but I
It's just
wouldn't call him a sidekick.
because I think sidekicks,
You
like
think of like
superhero,
Robin.
yeah, but superhero sidekicks after a certain era were not really a thing. Like, especially within the MCU, like early on, we had like War Machine and Bucky and but past a certain point, both
That's
of those characters stopped
that's
really necessarily being sidekicks.
like I would say Bucky was a sidekick, not Winter Soldier.
Yeah, but like after a certain
Yeah.
point, Bucky became his full-fledged own
Yeah.
person.
And then that's I wouldn't even say Winter Soldier or not Winter War Machine was a sidekick.
At the beginning, he was.
No, he was still working for the government.
So this scene, there's a flashback to obviously this whole scene is being told from Kate's perspective, but
Yeah.
her parents are arguing, and I didn't realize this subtext until I watched a new Rockstars video who does a bunch of like Easter eggs for the MCU
Yeah.
and stuff. And he pointed out that Eleanor, the mom, is very emotionally distant when talking about Kate.
Yeah.
And so it like rewatching that scene with that in mind really did put into perspective like what we learn later about her.
Yeah.
Just the way that she talks about, because the parents are having an argument and they're talking about where they want to send Kate long term, and Eleanor is very quick to like give her up,
Mhm.
which is like very unlike I feel like a typical mom
Yeah.
would be. She felt to me having
Like
yeah, she just felt very emotionally distant in that scene in hindsight. I did not pick up on it obviously
yeah.
in the beginning, but oh, so we basically see Kate looking out there's a blast in the wall and she's looking out and she sees Clint.
The classic scene.
Yeah. And
Which I thought that was cool that they
it's from a different angle.
yeah, but I still think that is cool because they had to
It's a shot for shot like move to move.
yeah, which is pretty cool.
Um, and basically there's a big explosion and a Shatari ship is about to come right into the building and it's blown up and basically we learn that Clint saves her.
I want to rewatch that scene in Avengers and see if that scene sort of exists.
Yeah, I mean, I think more than
Or I'm
likely
not
what it
saying like you'll see a little girl or something.
no, no,
I
no,
want
but
to see if he shoots a Shatari, if he
there's a big
shoots
explosion.
the close to a building that looks like the building that she
Well,
lived in.
from what I understand, just based on the Easter egg videos that I have seen, we don't see much of Clint during that whole battle. And so
Yeah.
it's very easy to assume that he was just elsewhere.
But that's the thing. That whole thing took place at that specific time
Also,
in that roof.
I
When
feel like I'm just recounting this entire new Rockstars video. Go watch his Easter egg videos. But um he pointed out that so the from Kate's perspective, the Battle of New York is far more condensed than it is in Avengers,
mhm,
which is because it's being seen from a New Yorker's perspective. It happened a lot faster from their eyes than it did from the Avengers' eyes. So basically, we learn that her dad dies.
and then we see Kate becoming a master archer, master like martial
Well,
artist.
first, this little intro sequence,
Yeah.
which I think is pretty cool. I think all of the MCU shows have pretty cool intro sequences.
Hmm.
And I know, like, in the age of streaming, we're all skipping through most of them.
But Loki's is still the coolest because Loki's was the changing letters, which showed it could be. I know this is a previous one, which I probably should have brought up in Loki,
I think we talked about it at some point.
but like I believe each letter that pops up on the title sequence is a different variant's like show.
Oh,
If
like
that
the
makes
different font,
yeah,
because the
because there's
LOKI is like all each letter is a different font.
and then there's also like 15 different fonts that pop up for it.
That's an interesting.
But let's
But yeah, I thought the intro sequence was really cool. It reminded me a little bit of some of the intros for WandaVision.
but that's the thing. This is really we don't have another real intro sequence.
But it's the best way because it's basically chronicles.
It's a montage.
It chronicles Kate's life growing up,
Yeah, it's a intro
and
montage.
I think it's really interesting the way that they did that. Instead of showing in the actual show, they showed in the intro sequence.
Hmm.
They kind of yada yada it a little bit.
Yeah,
So basically, we meet Kate as I guess an adult.
is
She's 22.
is that the only montage in this entire show? Was that
I'm not sure.
because I don't.
We get like a building montage and they're doing all the trick arrows.
But I'm thinking more like a fighting montage, like in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah. So present day Kate is trying to get up to the top of what I thought was a church, but actually it's a bell tower.
At
And
her college or
no,
at a
it's
local.
actually Stain Tower.
Oh, it looked like it was like a in like a college.
No, she shoots the bell tower on top of Stain Tower.
Um,
And I don't know if it's actually owned by the Stains or if it was just a reference to Obadiah Stane or what.
I mean, Obadiah Stane in the MCU was also from a wealthy family already,
Yeah, but it's just
so it could.
um
But
so I love that this show is set at Christmas time.
yeah,
But what I love about this is that it's not Christmas is the backdrop, but it's not like
it's
explicitly a Christmas show.
yeah.
Supposedly it was inspired by Die Hard.
I've never been interested.
I've never seen it,
I
so
think I've seen the fifth one.
I didn't know there were 5. We meet up with Clint and his family, and they're at a Broadway show of the Avengers Battle of New York sequence, which I thought,
Called the Rogers.
but it's very clearly the poster is very reminiscent of Hamilton,
Yeah,
like the yellow and the way he's standing. But honestly, I'd watch an entire show.
I wouldn't.
That music, like that one song that they played, was kind of fire.
You
Like,
can watch the entire 4 minutes on YouTube.
but I do think it's a little odd that they've like almost made Steve Rogers as this like mythical character almost.
But no one knows what happened to him.
I know, but it's so bizarre.
After saving Thanos, he just disappeared. That's why, like in Falcon Winter Soldier, Joaquin Cortez or whatever his name,
Torres.
Torres, was asking, "Is Cap really living on the moon?" Because no one knows what happened to Cap.
They mythologize him a lot, which is really interesting, and they make Cap kind of star of the show.
Because I mean, think about it. He was big in the 50s or World War II, and then he disappeared for 70 years, and then he came back magically. And then he disappeared again. Important person disappears and reappears. They sort of get idolized and memorialized.
Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting. I also think it's really weird that like Clint's family would have wanted to go to this show.
It might have been Hawkeye was curious, but you know, Hawkeye, his kids probably wanted to go.
Like, would you take your kid to a Broadway musical based on your life? Because I think that's a little all weird. Because his kids presumably know all of this.
Hmm.
They have met all of them
The only one that hasn't was Nathaniel.
with the baby, yeah.
Yeah, Nathaniel Pietro.
So Kate arrives back home and her mom's pissed because she's done damage to this building.
Oh, we learned that Hawkeye is deaf.
Yes, true.
We learned that Hawkeye is deaf, which I am
He
actually
his
hearing aid.
Hearing aid.
So he's deaf, or he says he's just hard of hearing.
So it's believed that because of all of the battles and stuff that his ears were damaged.
Which makes sense, because, I mean, I just wish that they referenced it before.
Which explains why he doesn't really know a ton of sign language. Like,
So it could have been a part of going back in time, something like that.
well,
Because
he's had a number of explosions that have happened like right next to him.
didn't he? I don't remember the whole quote unquote fight scene on Voldemir
Yeah.
for a Soul Stone. Maybe his head during the fight like hit the side of the rock when he and Natasha were fighting to sacrifice themselves.
Well, I know like during the Battle of New York he gets like smashed through a window and then there's like an explosion somewhere
Yeah,
near
so I
him.
mean, it could have just been a long time thing coming. I mean, he was a shield agent for 20 years,
Yeah.
and then he was a criminal before that.
Yep. So,
Which,
yeah.
if you guys want to know more of the criminal past of Hawkeye, check out our Patreon, because I'll have a deep dive on that.
Yep. Yeah, Matthew's been doing a bunch of deep dives out over on our Patreon of a bunch of characters. We have
We
um
have,
a whole bunch of them from Falcon the Winter Soldier. We have one on Sharon, Bucky, John Walker, all of them. So go over to our Patreon for that, as well as you get the episodes a whole day early.
yeah.
So
And if there's any people you want to know, or comic arcs, let me know what you guys want to hear.
yeah, Kate arrives home and her mom's pissed, and she basically is like, these rich people think that they're invincible, and young people have always thought they were invincible,
And
and you're
she,
both.
yeah. Which
Um,
isn't a thing that's wrong. When you're young,
well,
you think you're invincible, and rich people are,
it's also implied that her mom wasn't the one that was born into money, but she married into it.
yeah,
So this is relatively new for her.
yeah.
Whereas for Kate, it's been her whole life.
I mean, they like rich people,
I think rich is relative, but
or like New York rich, like living
there's a
in,
difference between rich and wealthy.
and they're wealthy.
Yeah.
Like, wealthy people can, or some wealthy people believe that they can get away with whatever, and then young people think they can get away with whatever.
Well, I think especially when you're like 19 to like I would say 24, there's that point in time where you're like you make a lot of mistakes, but like you
Hmm.
somehow always bounce back because you're that at that age where everybody just kind of thinks you're stupid because you are. It's very easy to feel invincible at that age. So we basically learn that her mom has a new boyfriend.
That Kate also got another martial arts award.
And then we see Clint at dinner with his kids at a Chinese restaurant. And he's basically, keep in mind, he's also missed like 5 years of Christmases with his kids. So he's
Or
like trying to be like dad of the year.
yeah, because his kids got blipped.
Yeah.
His entire family got blipped, which will be more important later in the show.
And multiple people up until this point have recognized Clint, and he's clearly very uncomfortable with it.
Because, I mean, think about it. When he was in Shield, his job was to stay hidden. He wasn't supposed to be out in the open like Steve Rogers,
Yeah.
or Iron Man, or Hulk, or Thor, or because Black Widow and Shield agents were supposed to stay in the shadows and spy, and so their meal gets comped by the restaurant for saving New York and
And
saving the world, which makes him even more uncomfortable.
basically, Kate has to go to this work function with her mom, and she chooses to wear a tux, which I think is a power move because her mom basically says like, "Oh, I picked out a red dress for you," and she chooses to wear a tux instead. But I do think that it was a power move for her, a because she was rebelling against her mom, but also I just think I don't know. I just think that that was a power move in general.
Yeah,
Very few women, in my personal opinion, can pull that off, and she did. So
yeah.
she sees her mom,
Arguing with Armand the Third.
and we basically learned that Eleanor and Jack are engaged,
Yeah,
and
which,
Kate is pissed about it.
I mean, wouldn't you too if
I
some
don't. My parents have been married for 40
no,
years,
but
so
like, if you were told by a family friend that your parents were engaged, don't you think you would be a little annoyed that they didn't tell you?
um. So
Whatever.
basically, she stumbles across some kind of black market auction.
She doesn't come across as she's trailing Jack. She doesn't trust Jack.
I mean, would you?
Not at all.
And they're
There's
auctioning off some kind of retractable sword from the Avengers compound,
the Ronin sword.
and someone crashes into the building.
So yeah, so they did the Ronin suit, and then they did the Ronin sword. Which, if you remember, we saw the only time we've seen Ronin was Hawkeye after his family got blipped.
Mm. And in the
And
chaos,
yeah,
Jack, the fiance, steals the sword,
yeah. So the black market auction was stuff stolen from the Avengers compound after Thanos' attack.
and Kate puts on the Ronin suit and attacks. She doesn't know what it is.
No, she's just trying to cover her face.
And there's a dog outside that attacks the dude that finds the Avengers compound watch. And so she no, she doesn't take it.
No, she chases after the dog.
Yeah. And then Clint sees the news story on TV,
That Ronin's been spotted after a couple years.
and she takes the dog to her apartment. Is it Eleanor? No, it's Kate that finds Armand dead.
Yeah, because she goes to Armand's house to check something out in the suit and finds
She
him dead. She leaves and then she gets attacked by the tracksuit mafia.
and then Clint
Show
corners her in the street, and
or Clint saves her from the mafia
yeah,
and they talk and
it's
he's
like, God, you're Hawkeye. You're just a kid.
yeah.
And that's the end of episode 1. And episode 2 is called Hide and Seek.
Yeah, there's a lot of dialogue in the first 3, so we're going to skip a lot of it and summarize a good chunk.
So she's super starstruck. The tracksuits find out where she lives. The apartment basically torched the place.
Which, I'm sorry, I just have to ask. I've never been to New York.
Yeah,
Are there really apartments above, like,
yeah.
restaurants and, like, fast food
Well,
places and stuff?
okay, keep in mind, it's an island.
True.
Manhattan is an island, so there's very few places. Usually, and this is actually very common in Europe as well, where like the ground floor will be a business,
Hmm.
and then there'll be apartments on top.
Would you get a discount at the restaurant if you live above it?
I don't know.
Because I think
I never actually lived in New York. I lived in Jersey.
if if I owned a business in New York and people lived above me, I would be like, hey, if you live in the building, you get like 20% off. Because
It might be like a friends and family thing.
maybe, but I'm like, but it looked like she lived right above the.
She does.
So I mean, it's what, a pizza place?
Yeah.
You must
And like
really love pizza to
it
live above a
looks
pizza
it
place.
look well, she said she inherited it. And it looks as
Okay.
though it's like a secondary dining room to the pizza place because there's like a table and chairs like bolted into the ground.
But it looked like she lived like on a floor above.
No, I know, but it might be like a storage. Might have been a storage room
Maybe.
for the pizza
Or
place.
they were throwing out the pizza plate or the table and so she just took it.
Yeah, I don't know. So I was wondering if the Ronin suit is fireproof because it's just sitting on a chair, completely fine.
It's leather and leather is fire resistant. Yeah, we find out that it's fire resistant.
Well, then why do they barbecue it at the end?
Spoils.
I'm just saying, if they knew that
No,
it was fireproof, then why did they
no,
do
fire
that?
resistant is different than fireproof. I don't know, it survived the fire and the LARPers got it. So, I mean, it might have not gotten hit by the flame because not everything got destroyed.
So basically, they go to her aunt's place, who's away, and that's kind of like their safe house throughout this entire series, is the aunt's house. Um,
Yeah, so so they go, yeah, so they get to the aunt's house and it's weird. So it's what, Eleanor's sister?
I don't know,
I'm
like,
I'm guessing.
well, because the new rock stars, they said that, or he said it was, the aunt was like in the universe was like an actress that made like old movies. Because like
Weird.
her name is on a bunch of movie posters.
Yeah.
That apartment was super nice.
Yes. It looked like it was close to, I don't know.
Well, because Kate's apartment, the her mom's
It
apartment
looked
rather, her mom's apartment is Park Avenue, which is like it's like
the penthouse.
yeah, but it's also I'm like 99% sure is the same apartment as Blair's apartment from Gossip Girl.
Okay.
I'm like
I don't know.
99% sure. It looks very familiar. Um,
It could possibly. I don't know.
so
I
basically,
mean, I doubt it just because there's not a whole lot of places that the MCU will share with other places.
they redecorated, but the structure of the apartment's the same.
Yeah. I mean, it could just be a penthouse in the same building.
I don't know. So Clint disguises himself as a firefighter to get into the apartment, and he sees on the window LARPers,
Yeah.
like a LARPing association sticker.
And he realizes that it's not there, and so he looks up that sticker.
Hmm.
And he looks up what looks like to be TikTok, but you know what I mean?
Instagram.
Maybe, I don't know. They can't use real names of stuff.
Hmm.
It looked like a mixture of Instagram and TikTok.
I remember this is such a tangent, and like two people will get this reference. But in Degrassi, they would make like fake um social medias,
I mean,
and they were all like so cringy
it's
names.
not as bad as the iCarly or the Drake and Josh universe.
Well, like they did the whole episode. This is so tangential, but like they did a whole episode where Snapchat was heavily involved, but they called it Oomph Chat. Which is so
I mean,
stupid.
that's still better than the pear phone in like iCarly and Victorious and all that, where the phone is shaped of a pear.
Well, it's like the slap.com,
Yeah,
which is like so clearly Twitter.
I was thinking Slap was more like Facebook.
At the time, it was probably more closely resembling Facebook.
Yeah.
So basically, they start calling the dog Pizza Dog, which I think is sweet.
So they were trying to find a name, and Kate just said pizza dog, and the dog like perked up.
And I love that Clint is kind of like a dad to her. I think
But
it's really
did you know
sweet.
something with the dog?
But he has one eye.
Yeah.
So basically,
Fine.
he sends his kids home, and his little guy is signing, which
Mm-hmm.
is like so sweet.
Yeah. Which also fits your theory that he's more gone deaf
Well, I mean,
more recently.
a lot of people teach their toddlers to sign.
Mhm.
So, like, just simple, like, more and mama and dada.
I learned something today from TikTok actually. So there's this TikToker that I listen to, or it's a family, and like the daughter is like deaf,
Hmm.
and apparently the co-auricular ear, uh,
The cochlear implant.
yeah, can actually connect to Bluetooth devices.
We had this whole conversation earlier
Yeah, but I'm like,
because we were having a conversation about how Clint was talking to his wife, like he was talking
yeah,
on like
and
on a Bluetooth
we
headset.
weren't sure if that was actually like real or not, and it is
Yeah,
because
I saw this really sweet video of it was the mom was hearing, the dad was deaf, and the little girl was hearing.
hmm
She was probably like 2 or 3, and they were talking about their days over dinner. And the dad signed something, and the little girl just like randomly started interpreting it.
hmm
Which I'm like, it's crazy how kids can pick up on that stuff.
I mean, kids pick up on everything.
I love Kate's outfits in this show. Like this scene specifically, the morning after they sleep at the aunt's house, it's very clear that she raided her aunt's closet.
hmm
But it's like her clothes are so intentional and so quirky and weird.
But I mean, look at Kate though. She's quirky and weird, and
But it's like she didn't just grab the first thing she saw. She clearly put together an outfit.
you sure?
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally wouldn't be wearing it, but I thought it was cool.
hmm
Kate meets with her mom and Jack, and it's pretty hostile. And Clint goes to a LARPing event in Central Park to get the suit back. Listen, I have no room to talk. I played a fictional sport for 3 years. If you don't know, I played Quidditch in high school. Look up how people play Quidditch in the real world. I don't have time to explain it here, but I have no room to talk about LARPers because it's like very much a similar thing.
Yeah.
But like they're a specific breed, I'll put it that way.
Clint has to
So Grills, the main gentleman that he meets there, basically asks to fake kill Clint.
Hawkeye because that would boost his standing in the LARPing in their group if he fought Hawkeye and won.
I have a note here that Jack reminds me of one of the townies from The Sims. If you've ever played The Sims, Mortimer Goth. Um If you had never played The Sims, you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no. How do you know the Sims name?
I used to play a lot of Sims. Okay?
If you want to continue playing it, I have it on my Xbox.
No, I'm fine.
I think I also have all the DLC for it.
But yeah, if you know The Sims, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, disregard this. But Jack looks exactly like him.
I'm still trying to pull the name out of thin air.
They're basically that whole family is they're NPCs. They're basically inspired by the Addams family, and he's very similar to
Gomez?
yeah.
I would, when I played Sims, I would like put Sims in a room and then remove the door. And then do like the money cheats and all that.
Basically, Kate challenges Jack to a fencing match because she's super suspicious of him.
Suspicious.
I cannot. And
Kate is
Jack,
super suspicious of Jack. Jack lets her win. She gets mad and like forces him to like tell the truth. Which then she uses that he's lying about other stuff. Which I'm like, does it though? He's letting you win because you're going to be his stepdaughter.
yeah, and he offers her a monogrammed butterscotch, which is the same butterscotch that was in Armand's home.
Yeah, but I mean,
But like that's his uncle.
yeah, he probably has a ton of it.
His uncle is probably like, oh, here's a handful one day. Um, Clint meets up with the tracksuits.
Or no, so Clint puts himself as to get captured
Yeah,
to find out who
and
their leader is.
Kate uses this like special app because her mom runs a security company
So she uses
to
this
track
security,
him.
yeah, and then she gets captured. Hawkeye is talking with like the tracksuit mafia, different
They're such
stuff,
doofuses.
and they're just low level criminals.
They're
And
such doofuses.
but they are funny though. My favorite one is the one that bought the
Imagine Dragons tickets. Is
yes.
it so he can like make up with his girlfriend or something?
It was a gift for his girlfriend and a gift for him, but they fought, and then his girlfriend's taking her best friend.
And he asks Kate for advice.
Okay, so this is all going to be in episode 3. Episode 3 is called
Oh yeah, we
Echoes.
meet
We
Maya.
meet Maya at the end of episode 2, and Echo starts with Maya in 2007, where she starts a new school. Maya is deaf, mute, and an amputee.
Basically, there's this little. She has this conversation with her dad. The dad is played by
Her uncle. I don't think it's her dad.
It's her dad.
Okay.
Her dad is played by, in Westworld, the Native American guy.
That's him!
Yeah,
I was like, why does he look familiar?
yeah, he's the name. I can't think of the character's name off the top of my head, but
He was the one that the Man in Black scalped to get the map to get to the center of Westworld.
yeah.
Because the map was in his
No, I'm
head.
pretty sure like Maeve helped him get to his family or something like that.
No, no, not that Native American dude. Maeve helped a different.
The guy with the white face with the black
Yeah, no.
markings.
Which one did the Man in Black scalp? Was it
I haven't watched that show in so long.
if you, if you guys want us to cover Westworld?
Just recently got canceled.
Yeah. If you got, I
If
will do them all on
if we
Patreon.
if we get enough people asking for it, then we'll gladly do it on Patreon.
Yes, just because that one will have more adult content we'll have to talk about.
We could do Game of Thrones on Patreon then.
It's gonna be like a year and a half. But Westworld, I can cover like half of the season in like an episode or two.
Yeah. It's basically she has this really sweet conversation with her dad, mostly in sign.
Yeah.
And it's like leads me to wonder like why didn't she ever want to get a hearing aid or anything?
I think because she's so used to, because she also grew up in, I'm guessing, a poor area where she couldn't
I mean, this is coming
afford.
from a person that is not hard of hearing or anything like that,
Yeah,
so I guess
but
it comes from
also
a place of privilege, I
probably,
think.
I'm guessing probably back in 2007 when she was a little kid and deaf, it might have been too expensive for her family to afford one.
Because
Because she asked,
it's very
because
clear that the way that she reacts to Clint's hearing aid is very
like you're relying on it too much.
yeah, like so she's against it.
So I think because she grew up without one, because like
She made it just fine without one.
yeah, because I think when she was a kid, she asked her dad if she was going to get a hearing aid for Christmas or something. He's like, not this year, we can't afford it.
Oh, I didn't
or
catch that.
something. I think it was something along those lines. He says maybe next year.
Okay. I mean, that's not to say
Or
that
he said, "Why am I different? I wish I could also hear." He's like, "You may be able to hear next year, maybe," or something
that's not
like
to
that.
say you need a hearing aid to survive. I'm
No,
just saying.
I think it's something along those lines where she could never afford one growing up. And if you're usually born, like, if you become deaf, like, when you're younger and you don't get a hearing aid, you usually don't get one when you're older.
Yeah, I don't know. So basically, we learned that her dad was killed by Ronan.
Mhm.
Um,
And then when we get that Imagine Dragons, which is the first or one of the funniest scenes in the show.
and Kate and Clint are basically captured, and they're
So,
taped to
like,
these like
Clint escapes first, puts his arms in front. Kate falls, and they get their tape behind their backs. Now, if Kate just listened,
well, he's signing.
no, it was the other dude. It wasn't him.
Oh, it was Kazi.
It was Kazi. Kazi was signing.
And then so
Clint wasn't.
Clint starts to use the friction of the little like carnival animal thing that he's riding to break his
Because they
tape.
just keep turning the Tracksuit Mafia just keeps turning them on
Yeah.
and laughing at them
And this is where Maya thinks that he relies too much on his hearing aid.
because they fight and she knocks it out of his ear and crushes it and completely just demolishes him in a fight.
So here's the subtle detail that I did not pick up on until I watched the Easter egg video is that all of the arrows that Clint fires in the scene are non-lethal,
hmm
which
Clint doesn't kill.
and his hearing aid gets broken.
She crushes it. Like just full on just stomps on it and like breaks it in half.
And so basically Kate is having to
Talk
communicate with him without Clint being able to hear her.
and it is funny as can be. Like when
They steal a car.
and he's like, "I'm not stealing that car." She's like, "No, we're stealing this one." He was like, "No." But not hearing her, he was just saying, "No, we're not stealing that one."
Yeah.
And then like while driving around,
And miscommunication is really funny.
yes, where she would say one thing and then he would say the exact same thing like to her
And
for
this is where we get all of our trick arrows, including
oh yeah,
the
this
giant Pym arrow.
oh my gosh, the trick arrows are so awesome. Oh my
They're the
gosh.
highlight of this show for
Like
sure.
they're my favorite thing of this show. Like I love Hawkeye.
This definitely catapulted this show to his favorite.
Just just the Pym arrow, just the shocking arrow, just the gas arrows, and then we get the giant Pym arrow that he tells Kate, shoot the arrow up and high and over, and he shoots it with the Pym arrow and it makes a giant freaking arrow, which is by far my favorite thing in
We've got one that is like it shoots out like webs and it like throws a bunch of Christmas trees against the car.
yeah,
There's one that like shoots a bunch of like purple blobs.
everywhere.
Um there there's he does one that's like a USB arrow that he just does as a pure distraction.
That no, he says he tells Kate to shoot it.
Yeah.
She's like, I hope you have a dongle arrow also for the USB arrow to connect.
That joke is not gonna age very well, but it is funny.
Because he's going to grab the suction cup arrow.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, use this as a distraction. And so and then the train scene's also funny.
Oh yeah.
Where she says we need to feed the
Feed the
dog,
dog.
and then like 20 seconds later, Clint says, "Yeah, we need to feed the dog," and because he can't hear her at all,
Yeah.
which just makes the scene
And then there's
even
a really,
funnier.
really sad scene when they get back to the apartment and Nathaniel calls, the little kid calls, and Kate has to like translate on a piece of paper.
hmm
And basically he's calling to like ask if his dad's gonna be home for a
Yeah,
movie night. And it's just so sad.
because Clint can't hear him, and so
It is. It's very sweet though, and I think that the dynamic between him and Kate is just very sweet.
and I love that this show, when we're hearing it from Hawkeye's point of view, everything is muffled, where he can hear, but he can't distinguish voices.
Yeah, I really like how it's edited in that way. I think it does a really good job of kind of multiple scenes have been like this where like especially the one where they're at the diner
hmm
when they decide Pizza Dog's name essentially. each shot is shot from, like, basically you're looking through the other character's eyes,
Yeah,
and a lot of the show is shot from either Clint or Kate's perspective.
yeah.
Some of it isn't, obviously,
And
but
then I just love the sound editing of the show with the
it's genius,
because even
honestly.
with the sound editing of like the Pym arrow where it was sounding like a normal arrow and then it got big and then it was
Yeah,
when it was going like normal like whistle sounding of an arrow and then it just got loud all of a sudden when it got big. Like those
yeah,
subtle sound things like really piqued my interest in this show.
and we learned that Kazi worked for Maya's father.
You know what? To bring up Hawkeye's deafness again, like when he hears people talking, you know what it reminds me of? The Peanut Mom, like the Peanut parents, where you know who's talking, but you can't make out the
It's
word.
like the wom 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 wom.
Yes, where where Hawkeye can't make out the word, like he doesn't know who's talking.
I know that there are people who watch Peanut cartoons religiously. I am not one of those people.
Same here. Peanuts freak me out. I don't know why. They're it's
I
hard for
know some
me.
people are like they have to watch the You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, or the Charlie Brown Christmas special or whatever
Or
it is.
the Halloween one.
Yeah, I've never enjoyed them, frankly.
Yeah, I don't know. They freak me out.
And Kate and Clint go get his hearing aid fixed. And this is the scene in the diner where Kate's like, "You have a branding problem," and so she draws him a new outfit, and it's his comic book outfit.
It's the original comic book outfit, which when I do the deep dive on Hawkeye, I'll have his first costume compared to the new the I'm not with the new costume that he has at the end of this one we'll use. But yeah, just check out our Patreon. I have a ton of videos up of Falcon Winter Soldier. Hopefully end of this week I'll have all of Hawkeye and Loki's done. There's just a ton of people I have to cover for Loki and the TVA and all that.
Yeah,
So it's just taking some little bit of extra
we got kind
time.
of backed up.
Yeah.
This is where I clocked that this is Blair's apartment from Gossip Girl.
hmm
Let me know if that's true if you've seen both shows because I think it's undeniable personally.
Yeah, so Kate can't get into her account at work, so they go to the mom's penthouse to get into her account to look up Jack and
We
Kazi
learn that Kazi is part of
business
a
that Jack owns.
what is it called?
Sloan LLC.
Sloan Limited.
Sloan Limited.
And we later learn that the Shell Corporation. We don't know that yet.
Yeah.
And then the episode ends with um Jack holding Hawkeye up by not gunpoint,
With the Ronin blade.
with sword point, I guess.
With the Ronin blade.
Yeah. So that is the end of episode 3.
So far, how do the shows rank for you? So
Um,
far with Hawkeye, not including what happens after episode 4. So Hawkeye 1 through 3 with the other 3 shows.
still WandaVision's the top,
Okay.
and then it would be Loki and then Falcon.
Hawkeye's last?
It quickly go then switches with Falcon
Okay.
after.
Yeah, mine is Hawkeye solely just on the trick arrows. But I also like Hawkeye.
You've kind of always liked Hawkeye, though.
Yeah, Hawkeye is a very interesting character that I wish they did better of in the MCU.
I think that Hawkeye is criminally underrated.
I really hope Hawkeye has a role in the Daredevil TV show that comes out, I think, next year. I really hope
We'll get
so.
more into the Daredevil connections in the next on Friday's episode. It
But
just doesn't play a role right now.
yeah, but I'm just saying I hope he has a role in Daredevil's show, which got confirmed.
I also really love Kate Bishop as a character. I think Hailee Steinfeld did an incredible job.
hmm
She has just the right amount of quirk that I think was necessary for this
Yeah.
character.
And I love Linda
Cardellini.
yeah.
I mean, she was Velma.
Yeah. She's Velma. She's also in one of the original Netflix originals called Blood Ties or Blood Feud.
Um,
Where check that show out. It's very dark, but also very, very interesting.
Yeah, well, and this is what I have appreciated with
Which,
Peter Parker as well, is that they let their young characters be young and dumb, for
yes,
lack of a better phrasing,
compared or with Tom Holland's.
because I feel like a lot of, and I don't think the MCU does it often, but I think a lot of these characters can be characterized as being like they can do no wrong, they can make no mistakes.
Yeah.
Whereas Peter Parker has been let they let him make mistakes, and mistakes that are incredibly genuine for his age group.
I mean, look at Tobey Maguire's. He killed the guy who killed Uncle Ben,
Yeah.
and Spider-Man doesn't kill.
But like this is what I love about Hailee Steinfeld's performance is that she, like this whole conversation we had in the beginning of the, young people think that they're invincible, is like that's how she feels almost
Yeah.
because she's
She's also a master archer. She's also a master martial artist in multiple different fields where she's been training to essentially work with Hawkeye in a
yeah.
way.
But I think that her performance is incredible, and I think that I feel like she feels age appropriate. Um, like she does, like how you watch a show and you're like, that is not a teenager. They
Mhm.
look 30.
Yeah.
Like Haley Steinfeld, even though I think she's our age.
But she
Um,
looks young.
but I think she sells
Young.
young.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Like Tom Holland.
that is part one of our Hawkeye coverage.
Mhm.
Do you have anything left to say? So join us on Friday for episodes 4 through 6,
Yeah.
and we'll see you then.
Bye.
If you would like to send us any feedback or any messages, you can follow us over on Instagram at thefanclub_podcast or on Twitter at fanclub_podcast. Or you can discuss each episode with us over on our subreddit, which is reddit.com/r/thefanclubpodcast. And make sure that you tune in every Marvel Monday.